Hey, it's Mike. So today's video is going to be all about muffs. So one of my favorite and my first fuzz pedal that I ever got was black Russian Big Muff. It was like I think late uh, 90s, early 2000s version. It was a really cool pedal. I regret selling it, of course, but I make lots of clones of these. But I've got a new version out now, and I wanted to share that with you. So kind of go through this pedal and then introduce the new one. So the new pedal on the right here is in my vintage custom series. Um, these will all feature replica style enclosures, as close as I can, replica style build inside, and just a little bit more friendly price point. So I've been doing some of these as like just custom one-offs, but I wanted to offer something really cool that you could order almost all the time. I'll have the enclosures available, and then you can decide if you want to do any mods to it or keep it stock. Some of the video today we're going to go through that. So I've also got on the left side here a modified, this is a Russian BigM, so it's got standard sustain, tone, and volume controls, plus a mid-range control. On the Vintage Custom Series, the ones that I'll have out now, they'll all be just a stock version of this pedal, and this is the ram's head. There's a few versions. This is a version 2 ram's head. I think it's a based on a 1973 ram's head, and it's got just your standard sustain, tone, and volume controls. These also have LED, and they'll have a power jack up here on top, so you can power them, put them on a board, or you can also run a battery in these as well. This is the first in the Vintage Custom Series, so I'll have some more models coming out as we go through, but I wanted to do these ones first because I really have had a hard time trying to find and source this style enclosure. These are a little bit thicker than the old or modern Electro-Harmonix enclosures, so they're a little sturdier, and just a really cool look and feel. Really love the artwork on these that got I worked with my source for the enclosures on the artwork, and I think it just came out really good. Right now these are just purple graphics, but I may change that, and then the enclosure is like this kind of smoke clear color, which looks really neat. You can see some of the metal shining through, just the texture of the metal. It kind of looks metallic in some pictures, but it's just I think this like the striations of the metal of the steel that shines through the clear. So it's like a smoke clear. The bottom is just like a textured black color, kind of like you would see on the old ones. And then you can see here on the top, you've just got your output, your input, and your 9-volt power. And yeah, I'm going to show you the inside on both of these, and we can kind of go through some of the circuit and kind of see what's going on in both of them, what makes them different. Obviously this one has got the extra control, so you can see that's different already. But these are built a little bit more in a modern way. This style pedal was featured on an episode of that pedal show, so I'll put a link in the description to that if you wanted to check out kind of their take on it. But really, I think versatile, maybe more modern voicing on these. You can dial in like a more scoop sound with it, but I think they work really well because you can push the mid-range with this mid control. But there's just really something kind of special about the old style muff fuzzes that when they scoop the mids, and you can kind of get this fat searing tone with them, and you can kind of dial in some of that with your guitar and with the tone control, kind of where it sits. But they also stack really well if you wanted to put something before or after it to shape the tone or shape the compression or sustain or anything like that. The circuits are different, so ram's head versus Russian. We'll kind of go through some of the differences in the circuit that I think are big differences. but I'll also show you what the mods are on this one. So let's do that next. So I'll show you a few of the mods and kind of what makes these circuits different from each other. So you can see the build on these. It's a circuit board, printed circuit board, which all the originals except for some of the very early triangle versions were on printed circuit board of some kind. All of the wiring and everything on these are off board, so you've got separate wires for all the pots. The extra pot that's underneath the board there has its own set of wires, and I'll show you kind of what's going on with that. In the circuit itself, what you have is 4 gain stages. So you've got, this is the way this is labeled is the same way electroharmonics originally did. So this says Q4, but this is really the first transistor, and the circuit flows this way, just left to right like normal. But this is essentially an LPB1. So you've got like a boost circuit that's pushing really the rest of the circuit, and it depends where you have the sustain control, which is here, set, so as to how much it pushes the rest of the circuit with volume. So here you've got a variable resistor. What that's doing is it's allowing more or less of the signal to come through into the rest of the circuit. That's your sustain control. But you can see this is the emitter here. On these 3 gain stages, they all have a resistor tied to them. On this one, this is technically for a Red Army overdrive, which is like the very first Russian versions of the Muff. It's really similar on all of the Russian versions. There's just little small details that can be different, but this is the same on the green or black Russian Muffs, is this 390 ohm resistor. So this is all on the emitter. You can kind of set the gain of the transistor with this emitter resistor. So the lower the value, or the closer it is to going straight to ground, the higher gain, the more gain potential the transistor has. So you could raise that and lower the gain. On this, it has a 390 ohm resistor. On the ram's head, which is a little bit earlier and would have still been made in New York, those have a 100 ohm resistor here, so a little bit higher gain just kind of off the bat because of that. Some of the resistors are just slightly different, so there's 2 resistors here that go in between the gain stages. There's more resistance here than there is on the ram's head, which again would give you a little more gain on the ram's head. And then some of the capacitors are a little bit bigger on the ram's head, but it's not a huge difference. They're in this clipping section here, but it would make a little bit of a difference. But as you go through, basically you've just got 4 gain stages, and then there's some tone shaping here. The gain stages cascade, so you get lots of gain and sustain and lots of clipping happening out of a relatively simple circuit. So in this tone section, what you have is essentially a high pass and a low pass filter in one pot. So as you turn the tone in this direction, it'll be low pass. You'll lose high end. As you turn it the other way, it'll be high pass. You'll lose low end. You can kind of shape where that fits your setup best, or where you like it best. And how it's achieving that, you've got the next pot. So this is the tone pot. Again, variable resistor. It's got a resistor and a capacitor tied to each side. The signal will go through, and then it'll come out of the wiper of that tone pot. And then it's also got a capacitor going into the next gain stage. This tone section, it really reduces the volume considerably. So you could make like a Big Muff really without all of this from here out, and it would get a lot of the sound, but you would be missing a lot of the shape of the sound. because this will change a lot. So what I do on this version, you can see there's a smaller capacitor and a bigger capacitor, and then you've got on this one just slightly different values for the resistors. It's different again on the ram's head. You can really kind of tailor and fine-tune that exactly how you want it to be. If you wanted to, you could also kind of get an idea of what it'll do before you mess with it. There's a tone stack calculator for a Big Muff, I believe, on somewhere on the internet. I'll try to find it and put a link in the description, but basically it'll give you some graphs and you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to do. But changing any one of these 4 values will change the tone and kind of what's emphasized, and even really just changing the sweep of the pot. What I do on this is similar to like the hoof style mid control, and what I'm doing is I'm reducing this capacitor and I'm making this capacitor a little bit bigger. They're actually the same size, so you can see on the inside now these 2 yellow caps are these caps, and I've just made them the same size, which it kind of makes it less bassy on the low side of the pot, and then it doesn't really get too trebly either. It really works nicely as kind of like how you want your high end to sit without making it muddy. Kind of clears up some of the low end a little bit. Then I've also got, you can see on the board there's a resistor missing. So that resistor is this R5 right here. It's 22K on the Russians, and the 20K I also changed the value. So this is now a 39K, and this 22K becomes a 25K pot that's in series with a 2.2K resistor to ground. So you can't see it anymore because it's under the board, but coming off of the board, instead of a resistor here like this, we've just got it goes to the pot. So it allows you to change this value of this resistor in real time. And what it does is it gives you a sweep from something that's more scooped. It's also a little bit quieter on this end, and it starts to pick up the volume and push the mid-range as you turn that up. And we'll listen to that in a little bit, but you can, between these 2 controls, you can really fine-tune the shape of the sound considerably. Between having this set lower and the treble a little bit higher, having it kind of more scooped, or pushing that back and really pushing the mid forward to really give you a lot more volume, and you can hear the sound a lot better because there's a lot more mid-range. Volume I don't really mess with. It doesn't really need extra volume. This whole section of the Big Muff is essentially another one of these, but a little bit simplified LPB, so it's like a booster, and it's taking the output and just amplifying it more, which it really does need to have that in order to get over unity gain or unity volume. And the sustain pot, yeah, I don't really mess with that either. The stock value and everything there are really good, and I kind of don't mess with the values otherwise in any of the biasing for transistors or any of the clipping stuff. All of that I want to kind of keep it how it is on each model or in each style, just so that they represent what they are a little bit better. But on this style, I think you can really get lots of just different tones with these 2, which I'll show you in a minute. But on the old school muffs, yeah, you really typically have a little bit of a scoop sound. Naturally, the tone stack that's in the Russian is a little bit more mid-forward and a little bit lower gain. So it kind of works a little bit better without the mod. Where you'll hear this one is very scooped no matter really where you put it, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's just really distinct. you know exactly what it is when you hear it. It's a Big Muff. So let's go ahead and plug these in, and let's see what they sound like. And I'll kind of run through some sounds, some differences, and you can see kind of which one you like better. I think a lot of people would probably prefer having more control, but if you really want the sound of like the old style muffs, just the stock versions are, I think, the way to go. So if you would like also one of these, they'll be on the website now at a pretty good price, and I will have 3 of them just available right off the bat. They'll be in stock, ready to go. After that, they'll be kind of like a custom order, but built to order. I'll have to order enclosures for them as the orders come in. But email me if you wanted to do something special, colors, colors of the graphics, colors of either of the pieces here, so the bottom or the top could be different colors. But yeah, lots of possibilities for some fun pedals. Other than the sound difference, you can see the size difference is pretty big. These old pedals are pretty large, but they're heavy. You know, they look and feel really cool, and doesn't really change the sound, but definitely has a cool vibe to it. So let's plug them in and just see what they sound like. And after I do that, we'll go through this one and we can kind of see some of what's going on inside. All right, so both pedals are plugged in, ready to go. I've got my Telecaster going into the pedals and then going straight into the high watt DR20. That's going into the aux and into my interface. So a pretty clean setup. I'll just I won't run any effects, no reverb, no delay or anything. So we can just get the sound and sustain out of these pedals. First I'll kind of set them similar, and then I'll run through the sustain pot on both of them so you can get an idea of how much gain each has. And then we'll go through the tone controls on both of them. So let's go ahead and do that now. So you can hear both have lots of sustain, lots of gain. The ram's head is a lot gainier, and that's partly the emitter resistors, and then partly the some of the caps in between the stages of the gain stages, and then the resistors in between the gain stages as well. Not really transistor gain. They're really pretty much the same, between 4 and 500 HFE on both of these, relatively similar. But there's not as much gain if you turn this all the way up as there is on the ram's head. Is that useful? Not necessarily. I kind of think the ram's head sounds its best lower on the gain, where I think you can go a little bit higher gain on this and it still holds up and it doesn't start to kind of just fold over and compress all of the notes into one thing. It's kind of a feel thing under your fingers especially. But tonally, pretty similar once you get the tone control and the mid control set. This is set so that the tone is just about, I'd say 1:30, 2 o'clock, and the mid control is at 9 o'clock. So the mids are down and the treble is just starting to kind of come on, and you get a pretty similar scooped sound as what the stock ram's head would have. But yeah, pretty different but similar. They should be really similar because they're almost the same circuit, but different transistors, some of the different resistor values and coupling cap values, and all of that kind of adds up. Of course, it's got 4 transistor gain stages, but it's still a relatively simple circuit. The way that it's just cascading the gain. If you change 1 or 2 things, you'll get a little bit different sound. So next we'll go through the tone controls on both of them. So we'll do the tone control on the Russian one first, and we'll kind of go through everything there, and then I'll take you through the sweep of just the single tone, the stock tone on the ram's head. On both of them, I'll just set the gain to kind of the optimal setting for both of them, which I think on the ram's head is somewhere around 9:30 or 10 o'clock. On the Russian one, it's somewhere around 1 o'clock. So let's do that now. you can hear a lot of the differences on the tone controls and just what you can do with the extra mid control and the tightened up lows on the tone control. Sometimes the stock version of the Russian muffs can get a little bit kind of tubby on the low end, but I don't find that to be the case with when you do this mid-range mod. I think it stays pretty clear throughout the sweep of the tone control, and the mid control just gives you a lot more mid-range, so a lot more cut, and the textures I think can stand out a little bit more in an interesting way. The ram's head, I think just the stock ram's head is maybe my favorite one still, but that's just me. I like the way that it scoops the mids. The tone control range on it, it does get darker, a little muddier, and quite a bit brighter, where I probably would leave it more towards the center of the sweep. But I just like kind of the stock muff, the way that it accentuates those frequencies. And I really associate that with the Big Muff sound. So up to you on what you think is the right one for you, because I think a lot of people might find this really useful to have these extra controls, to have the extra tone shaping control on that. But if you're just going for the sound, you can't beat the original. So let's open up the ram's head, and we can take a look inside, and I'll show you kind of what's going on in there, and I'll just A/B a little bit with what's going on this one. Let's do that next. So here are the two Big M side by side. You can see inside we've got the same circuit board on both. On the Russian and on the ram's head, I've tried to kind of use what they would have used on the original as much as I could, as far as the type of component. So we've got metal film capacitors. I believe they use mylar or metal films on the Russians. These, they've either used film or ceramics, but I kind of like the way the ceramics look and the way they can give the sound a little bit more texture, kind of grainy texture. So I've used ceramics on almost all the caps on the ram's head versus this, which is all kind of film caps. Carbon film resistors and carbon comp resistors on the ram's head. So mild difference. I don't know that you really hear much of a difference. I like the way they look on both of them, because that's what would have been used on the originals. But these small Allen Bradley quarter watt carbon comps fit perfectly, and they look really nice. And so do these, which are just some more modern carbon film resistors. Same diodes on both of them, which are some new old stock Fairchild silicon diodes. Different transistors. So we've got BC549C, which is a new old stock, like a Fairchild make on these transistors on the Russian. On the ram's head, at least for now, I've got a little stock of the Siemens BC238C transistor. You would have seen BC239s and 5088s on these originally, but so a little bit different number, but they look the part, and they're a similar spec as far as the brand and the shape and everything. But most importantly, they're in the right gain range, so both of them are really roughly the same gain range as far as the transistors go. The way that I usually do it, I'll start with the first transistor being the highest gain, and then they'll kind of get a little bit lower as you go through, and same on the other one. Although you could really do whatever you want. They'll make fuzz sound kind of no matter how you tune them, but try to keep it consistent so that they're relatively the same pedal to pedal. On the inside of this one, you can see there's also a battery snap, so there's a lot more room, and I can put a battery snap on this one. Sometimes I can put a battery snap on these, but it's a little bit tighter space inside of the smaller enclosure to put a battery and the big circuit board and off-board pots and top jacks, etc., etc. So there's not sometimes as much room to do that, but most of the time I don't put it in there. Put the battery snap in these. So I think most people are running these just on their power supply, but both of them work the same on power supply. This one, the battery will cut if you're using, or if you take the input jack out. So if you're using a battery in it, just unplug the input, and it won't drain the battery. That's pretty much it as far as the components. Both of them true bypass with LED. Or I think if you're going to put one on a pedal board, this one's more flexible, and you can definitely do more with the tone shaping. But if you're after just the old Big Muff sounds, I think the stock tuning is the way to go. But you let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions or anything, just let me know. You can email me, message me on Instagram or Facebook, put a question in the comments, whatever. I can answer it, and otherwise, yeah, I'll put some links in the description. Check that stuff out. That was that pedal show episode featuring this pedal, this style, Russian Muff. And then also that tone stack calculator. That's kind of interesting to go through, and you can really shape so much about the tone with that. It's a big part of the Big Muff sound. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.